Thank you again for seeing me on such short notice.
No worries. My schedule's a lot more free now since school is out. I saw your video about Trey Mancini, by the way. Took a lot of courage opening yourself up to your audience like that. Now what is it you wanted to talk about?
Javy Báez, man.
What?
Yeah.
At one point, he was one of the most electric players in the game, and will be the show cover athlete, no-look tags, acrobatic plays, making defenders look so bad on the base paths that they had to defect to Korea. A swing so violent that it needed a parental advisory label attached to it. He had this approach that looked unsustainable, but he just kept performing. He was El Mago. You know, the magician. He reaches free agency after the 2021 season, signs a 6-year, $140 million deal with the Tigers, who look to be at the outset of the rebuild, and promptly turns into one of the worst players in the game. And now in the year 2024, he looks like a complete shell of his former self. He could possibly have the worst season for a shortstop ever, even worse than Tim Anderson's.
So you called me in on short notice to talk about Javy Báez? I'm here to talk about your thoughts and feelings.
Yeah. And this makes me sad.
So how's your relationship with your girlfriend?
It's fine. Why?
So when did you start having these intense thoughts about Javy Báez?
Well, it all started when I was watching my boy Reese Olson pitch against the Royals. I had forgotten that Javy was still even with them. He just looked so bad.
I hadn't given him much thought since his days with the Cubs, but he was one of my favorite players back then. His approach to the plate was so unorthodox. He was a free swinger who was somehow able to get a ton of juice on the ball. He didn't take walks because walks were lame, and he could put any pitch into play no matter if it was at his eyes or bouncing off the dirt. He was the reincarnation of Vladimir Guerrero in that way. He was racking up top-tier barrel rates despite swinging at more pitches out of the zone than anyone else in the league. His playstyle was like this unsustainable relationship that you know one day will end, but you're having so much fun in the moment that you can't bring your mind to that chapter ever closing. Maybe this feeling can last forever.
But we've discussed this. It is not healthy to tie yourself to relationships that you've recognized are bound to crash and burn.
Yeah, but I convinced myself that he was different. Maybe somebody could come along who would give me the best of both worlds.
Then what happened?
Well,
He had a rough 2020, but so did a lot of players. He started 2021 off good, but not great. So, in the middle of the Cubs teardown, he gets traded to the Mets and becomes a different player. He starts taking more walks, and we even saw a side of him we've never seen before. He's a lot more hostile towards the New York fan base, even starting a trend of giving New York crowds the thumbs down. He starts to play with a chip on his shoulder. On the field, he seemed more bothered by his environment than ever. But at the plate, he seemed to develop an awareness of the zone and ability to understand when pitchers didn't want any part of him.
And this bothered you?
no. I loved it.
Baseball, just like life, is a game of adjustments. He seemed to adapt his style to fit what GMs wanted to see. Pundits of the game predicted that Báez's aggressive tendencies would put a hard cap on his immense ability and could eventually catch up to him. But now he was showing he was able to make the necessary changes to succeed in the long term.
But you know that anyone in your life can feign making those changes long enough to convince you that they're a different person. People like Báez can mask their behavior to get what they want.
I know, but you don't understand. I thought he changed. And so did the Tigers. I should tell you that the deal was announced at 4:50 p.m. on December 1st, 2021.
What is the significance of this?
Dude, it was less than 12 hours before the owner's lockout.
Oh yeah, that was the time you were in my office every day of the week.
There was some speculation that both sides rushed into things a bit before forcibly parting ways.
But Báez actually started 2022 off well, and his peripherals looked to be within his career norms. Then it all fell apart in May. I'm talking, he had the worst month of his career, and it wasn't even close. What's crazy is that his strikeout rate actually went down. Even in that dreadful May, his K rate was somehow slightly better than it was in September of the previous season, his all-time best month at the plate. But the results were awful. Even his unflappable defense took a hit. Overnight, he just became a much worse player. But the process in which that happened looked a lot different than how many of us expected it to. We know what Javy Báez did in his prime was so unsustainable that his downfall was inevitable. He was the only player who barreled as many pitches as he did while swinging at as many balls out of the zone as he did. Despite what his highlights may tell you, swinging at pitches out of the zone is generally not a good idea. Because of his aggressive tendencies, year in, year out, he kept seeing the most pitches out of the zone. But it was okay because he did so much damage on pitches in the zone that it didn't really matter. But then
what?
He started second guessing himself.
He stopped swinging as much. It's not like he was making better swing decisions, just that he lost confidence in his ability to do damage. That May, he swung at far less pitches in the zone, and it just kept going down and down and down. You could see him getting frustrated with himself. It's almost as if every complaint leveraged his way finally got to his head as soon as he showed signs of weakness.
You want to know something crazy?
Shoot.
In 2018, Báez slugged 1.137 on pitches down the middle. In 2022, he only slugged 333.
Oh, okay, cool.
Doesn't that blow your mind?
Well, no, because I don't follow baseball.
Wait. So all these conversations we've been having have meant nothing to you?
Dude, I'm your therapist.
Think about it like this.
Báez's slugging on pitches down the middle was 6th best in all of MLB in 2018. In 2022, it was the 3rd worst. He abandoned the very component of his game that set him apart, and it turned him hollow. He notoriously swung and missed at 134 sliders down and away, 122 of them being out of the zone, 33 more than the next most. He was bad in 2022. But you know, we've talked about how new situations can lead to unrest.
Yeah, like when you started that job at the meatpacking facility.
Oh man, that was the worst. Also, was around the same time that dreams about the orangutan started.
Even Javy Báez admitted after the season that he was trying to do too much. He had lost sight of what made him such a magical player in Chicago. The Tigers also let go of hitting coach Scott Coolbaugh, whose tenure as the Orioles hitting coach seemed to coincide with another player who had an infamous downfall. You get to those points where someone disappoints you, but you give them a second chance.
So how did he do in 2023?
Oh, buddy. Let me tell you.
If it wasn't for our old friend Tim Anderson, he would have been the worst hitter that year. But the way in which his fall was amplified looked a lot different than how it started. His K rate was the best of his career. He hit better on pitches down the middle than from 2022. But he was swinging at less pitches than ever, barreling less pitches than ever, and was putting up his worst numbers against elite velocity, which is not really a good sign considering 2023 saw the biggest leap in number of pitches thrown over 95 miles per hour. What's even more frustrating is that for just a little sliver of time, it seemed like he came back. After getting caught napping on the base paths on an April 13th game, Tigers manager AJ Hinch pulled him. Moments like these happen from time to time. A player struggles, gets in their own head, manager gives them an opportunity to catch a moment and reflect, they wake up. In the 3 weeks following this decision, Javy Báez had one of his best stretches since 2021. And you know what? You could convince yourself that he was back. His strikeout rate was down. He was actually taking walks. Maybe this new version of the magician is finally realized, and you're able to have both one of the most exciting players in the league mixed with someone who is more patient and mature.
And then?
It was just a bunch of smoke. Everything went south.
He hit 6 homers from May 6th until the end of the season. That's how much he was averaging a month during his prime. It's not like you could say he was struggling in the pitcher-friendly Comerica Park. He was just bad no matter where he played. You know what's funny? He actually made improvements against sliders that year, even while we were all laughing at what he couldn't do against them the year before. But he actually made a concerted effort to lay off of sliders tailing down and away. However, I believe he sacrificed valuable reaction time in order to do this. And now we're in 2024. Nothing about him looks right. He's currently on pace to have one of the worst seasons for a shortstop. And what's frustrating is that he keeps improving in some areas while sacrificing in others. It's like a game of whack-a-mole. His numbers against velocity actually look better, but all the progress he made on sliders the year before has vanished. He claimed that he was battling lower back and core issues during his first 2 years in the Motor City. But I don't believe that's the only culprit. Everything about his process is out of whack. I honestly believe his biggest issue has been confidence. You can even see it with his stance. He went from a lion excited to attack its prey to a gazelle reluctantly about to eat some grass or something. He used to swing with such fervor. He wasn't selective, but he didn't need to be. His swing was so explosive that he could get juice on just about any pitch he made contact with. At some point, he was told he needed to swing less, but he wasn't being more selective. He was watching more strikes in the zone while swinging at roughly the same amount of balls out of the zone.
So how does all of this make you feel?
It makes me feel sad, but after talking it through, I have hope.
This year, Baseball Savant released their bat tracking data. Basically, they released numbers that measure the speed and length of a player's swing. Amateurs like me are still getting the ropes of what exactly to do with the data. But we do know there is some correlation between having lightning fast bat speed and being able to generate elite in-game power. Javy Báez is among the top in the league. In fact, if you look at the top 20 in bat speed and compare it to their WRC+, it reinforces the burning hope I have that he will eventually return to form, or at least not be the worst hitter on the planet. One belief I had ever since he started his decline is that his bat speed has slowed way the hell down. While we don't know what it was during his peak, we do know that it's still among the best in the game. I believe that he just needs to get back to what he does best, swinging at everything and having that confidence that he can do damage no matter where the ball is placed as long as he makes contact. I believe Javy Báez needs to flush out everything he's been told for the last 3 years, including the end of 2021, to rediscover who he is so he can have a shot at redeeming himself.
I feel like we've made a lot of progress today.
Yeah.
That'll be $200. I'm sure your insurance will cover most of it.
I lost my health insurance like a while ago.
Oh, so you have the $200 on hand.
I'm a YouTuber and a musician. You think I just have $200 on hand?
Well, that was kind of part of this arrangement.
I thought you just wanted to sit there and listen to me babble for 15 minutes on a subject you know very little about with limited input. Isn't that what friends are for?
You have 2 seconds to get out of here.
What?
1. Hey!
Hey, get back here! Gotta lock the door next time.